I had one teacher last semester. I think the spring semester of last year. Her name was Dr. K. Michelle Kelsey Carr. She's like the head of communications now. And I didn't like her at first because she was like a feminist, like women's studies, major. And so we talked about some like feminist ideals, and I started challenging some of them. And at first she kind of got a little defensive with me, but then she realized that that's what I was about. So then when I would come into class and like challenge her ideas, we could have like a constructive sort of conversation about it. Instead of her getting defensive and like trying to shut me down as the teacher, she would actually like encourage me to like do more, And so at first I didn't think I was going to like her, but then we actually...
What is a feminist? Like, the word gets tossed around so much, but I don't know what they believe in and like what their ideas are.
So they have some very like specific ideas on society. Like we talked about white privilege in that class a lot, and I told her that I think it's racist to say that white people have more privilege than others, because you're taking a group of people and saying that they are this. I mean, we did that with black people so long ago. Black people can do this and they can't do this. Black people or white people can do this because they have privilege, just because they're white. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to make that argument with her. We also talked about what did we talk about? It was like it had to do with identity and how we structured our identity. And it's like our identity is composed of so many different like characteristics. And some of the characteristics have more power than others. Like men would have more power than a woman in this characteristic, Mm-hmm. And I just, I debated on her with that, quite a bit.
That was your argument, that like men and women are different based off that?
That everybody is, equal no matter the race or gender, because we live here in the United States. I mean, the way people perceive you is going to be different depending on what you look like, but that doesn't mean you have any different rights than anybody else. The Bill of Rights applies to everybody in this country.
The rights and then like the characteristics are totally different though. Like I feel like we're very different based off, like men and women are obviously different, but we have the same rights, but that doesn't make us the same.
Right.
Like men obviously like think differently.
Right. But that doesn't mean that like, so we talked about the patriarchy a lot too. About so the patriarchy is kind of a feminist idea that men will always be in power because that's how we've structured it, and we've pushed women down.
Very true.
and we've pushed women down to the bottom because we don't want them to have any power. Which, I mean, that's sort of how it used to be. But I don't think it's so much that way anymore. Like we have so many women that are, Congress women. We had a woman run for president. Like we have, there are women in positions of power, and it's not just a patriarchy; it's a hierarchy.
There's also like, I don't know the technicalities, but there's different type of women where you can like my girlfriend could not run for president just by like the way she thinks, and she's very emotional. Mm-hmm. But there's women who, I hate to say it, but like act like men. You know what I mean?
It's different person to person. It doesn't have to do with gender really at all. It has to do with who you are as a person.
So feminists argue
characteristics that
like
it's
all women
gender.
Okay.
And
I
not
see.
just the like
they're not taking into account like person to person.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
They're taking into account.
That's very flawed though.
It is. I see a
and
lot of flaws in it.
I love women. Like I'm all about the women. Like
I love women, dude.
Like
I love a big fat booty.
No, not that. Not sexually, but just like we don't give them as much respect as they should. But
yeah,
they also, I do not want to say like know their place because that sounds horrible, but there's a reason. It's not a coincidence that men have always been in power and will always be in power.
It's because men carry a specific set of characteristics that women don't always necessarily do. Like you can take a personality trait test, and like there have been studies that show like men are generally more disagreeable than women. And so what that means is that men will disagree with you to get what they want more often than women will. Women are generally more agreeable, like at work. So if you're negotiating a raise, like a man is more inclined to say, no, I want more money. And a woman is more inclined to say, yeah, that's enough. Yeah. You know, it's just a predisposition that we see in men and women. You know, we're not saying, but there are disagreeable women, and those women generally become the CEO of companies, you know, or they generally become very successful. And there are also men that are very agreeable, that are very meek, you know, so there's overlap. It's not saying that men are this way and women are this way. It's just saying the majority of men are this way and a majority of women are this way.
And I don't even think you need like any crazy philosophies or beliefs to see that. You can go outside to like an event and you can see that the majority of men, like, there's just something about them that just, like, there's more power in them than like what a woman would have.
Right. There's more of a primal urge to get what you want out of it, you know.
And I'm not knocking women because...
No, I love them.
But, I mean, that's just what it is. It's just like, naturally, that's just what it is.
Yeah, it you know, it's a genetic predisposition in a way.
Like, you take a guy that's never played a sport and like a woman that's never played a sport and tell him to go like lead this football team. If neither of them have played, like 9 times out of 10 the guy's going to know like how to take charge of this group of men and like tell them what to do and like not be scared to do it.
Right.
Whereas a woman, they're going to be very timid and like you said, like agree to like what they want instead more.
Right. And you said 9 times out of 10, so maybe there's that one time out of 10 where the man is like, oh,
well, yeah, that one can't be left out because there is that one.
Right,
like,
there's always going to be that one, or maybe even 2. You know, maybe even 8 times out of 10, the man's going to take charge.
But the majority is always going to be.
Yeah, and the majority is always what we focus on. You know, but we're running out. They close in 10 minutes, so.
Yeah, and most of these women that argue this, like, you see, like. With the women that are arguing this, they couldn't like lead a fucking football team or run for president and shit like this. They're just like, they're very women-like, like the ones that I know at least.
Right.
I don't know.
They're very agreeable. You know, they don't.
But they're just like going with this fucking wave nowadays.
Yeah. My only problem I have with feminists are the ones that hate men, because I've never met those. I didn't do anything to you.
I mean, honestly, men are some assholes, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Men are dicks. Like, I'm a dick.
It's because we're very disagreeable. You know, we get what we want most of the time. You know, we're going to fight for it, too, if we have to. But, yeah, you should look that up. It's called the Big 5 personality traits. And then let's look and see, like, where women and men, like, rank on that. Because generally women will rank in the more agreeable side than the men will. And that's something, you know, feminists tend to overlook a little bit. Yeah, and you can take a test too if you want. There's a free online test to see like what you're, you know, how you rank on the scale of
it's
personality
probably
traits.
A woman created the website and we all just pop up as women.
Probably. I could see it. Just to show us. Yeah, so see agreeableness down there, that's 1. You know, and then there's extroversion and introversion. You know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. So conscientiousness is like how...
that's a big one.
It's like...
just aware of
yourself. It's aware of yourself and like your surroundings. So someone with a low level of conscientiousness would have like a dirty room. You know, like the room would be unclean and disorganized, where someone who's very high in conscientiousness is going to be super organized. They're going to have a planner and their weeks are planned out for weeks ahead and their sock drawer is organized and like, you know what I mean? Openness is about new experiences, like how open you are to going somewhere you've never been before. You know, neuroticism, I'm not sure. I always forget what neuroticism is. It might be conscientiousness. I might have those two flipped around.
Neurotics.
Individuals who score
moody.
High
just feelings
are more likely than average to be moody and to experience it. So women are generally going to be more neurotic than men are, you know.
I think men are very emotional though, that we just hide it.
Right. It's everybody is emotional, but it's, you know, we've been taught to like push down our emotions and not show them.
That's something I wanted to bring up earlier. It's like, do you think we got to this point, or do you think like from day one, men were always more primal, and like women were like not submissive, but
Well, I think like biologically, we've always been. We fight. We hunt. Like, if you look at how our upper bodies are built, like we're meant to be like throwing spears and like swinging sticks and like chucking rocks and shit. Mm-hmm. Where women are not. Women are not built this way. They're just not. They just don't have broad shoulders. They have wide hips because they're supposed to birth. Supposed to give birth. They have big legs so that they can carry a lot of things on their back. You know what I mean?
And like we focus on how we're very primal and like, the things we're good at as men. I feel like women don't take enough time to realize that they have like traits that we can't do. Like they have that trait of being a mother, like like being very sympathetic. Where men, we can do it, but it's like we have to try to do it.
It's not as easy.
Yeah,
it's not as easy to show it.
I mean, I feel like they don't focus on themselves enough. They're worried way too much about being like men.
Yeah.
When they have like advantages, you could say, over men.
Yeah, or seeing the differences, rather than the similarities,
Mm-hmm.
because men and women are very similar. Like we were very similar in a lot of scenarios, but we're also very different.
Mm-hmm.
There's, it goes both ways. There's two sides to the coin, and typically your raging feminist only sees one. So